Meanwhile, that's Wilmington, Delaware, just down the coast, the city of Baltimore, starting off the new year safer than it has been in decades. In 2025, Baltimore's homicide rate hit record lows, with the city recording the least number of homicides in nearly 50 years. The city also recorded a nearly 25% drop in non-fatal shootings. Joining us now, the mayor of Baltimore, Brandon Scott. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us this morning. Happy New Year to you as well. Let's start right there. What can only be deemed an unqualified success story for your home city of Baltimore. We have seen, thankfully, violent crime drop nationally in a lot of our nation's biggest cities. But Baltimore is one the president has criticized from time to time. There have been Republicans who have questioned your leadership, and it seems like the stats speak for themselves here.
Yeah, we ignore that here in Baltimore. We're focused on Baltimore and making Baltimore the safest Baltimore it can be. We're talking about a 58% reduction and 57% reduction in non-fatal shootings over the last 5 years. Historic numbers that you talked about from last year. And for us, that's still not enough. I laid out a comprehensive violence prevention plan 5 years ago and said that we were going to reduce homicides by 15% from 1 year to next. And while we've been blowing that number out of the water, we're still not satisfied, and we're going to continue our comprehensive public health-based approach, doing all of the things, not just one of the things, to make Baltimore safer, focusing on the small groups of people who are the most likely to be the victim of perpetrators in gun violence through our group violence reduction strategy, giving folks an opportunity to change their life. Folks get a letter from me directly, and if they don't, they hear from our police department and our state's attorney and our U.S. attorney and our attorney general in Maryland for prosecution. We've seized over 2,400 illegal guns, most of which come from other states, and turn those people over for prosecution. But we've also made historic investments into community violence intervention programs, Safe Streets, We Are Us, 10 Day of Family, Challenge to Change, the Peace Team, using the community in Baltimore to help drive down violence, because those who are closest to the problem are always going to be closest to the solution. We're doing it all in Baltimore. We're acknowledging that we're safer than we've been in decades, in my lifetime for sure, but saying that we have a lot more work to do collectively.
Mayor Scott, hi, it's Molly Jong-Fast. I was wondering if you could talk a little more, because I think it's really important that you're out there talking about this. And one of the quotes that you said in July, which I think speaks to your sort of way you're doing this, is it's never been about how many people you arrest. So explain how you cut down on murders while not making it so much about arrests, but about public safety.
Yes, this is what I say every time. It's not about how many people you arrest. It's about who and for what. When you think about 2004 here in Baltimore, there were 278 homicides that year, and the city police department arrested 91,000 people. We had 133, and we arrested less than 20,000 people, because what we are now doing is ignoring the past waves of zero tolerance and policing everybody black for every little thing, and focusing on those who we should be focused on. People that are carrying illegal guns, people that are in these violent groups, people that are pushing drugs in our community. That's how we're focusing the police. And at the same time, we have the community members itself, people that used to be in a life of crime and on the other side of the tracks, so to speak, focusing to change the culture and stop these beasts before they happen. All of it matters all the time, not just one thing.
And as we have seen, President Trump justified his deployment of the National Guard in some cities by saying, well, it's trying to tackle crime. But the courts have said, no, you can't do that. And frankly, most mayors said, no, thanks. We didn't want them anyway. So, Mr. Mayor, let's talk about affordability. We just heard from Senator Coons of Delaware, just up the coast there from you, say that's still the #1 issue he hears from those in his state. Talk to us about the residents of your city, how they're grappling with higher prices, including, as of yesterday, for some of them, higher health care costs.
Yeah, this is what people are talking about, right? We're still talking about reducing gun violence. People are talking about the rising costs, but we're also in Baltimore where over 12,000 people were federal employees, and many of them have lost their jobs. We have to offer assistance for folks for child care, for rental assistance, home mortgage assistance. All of these things are shrinking down to the local level because there is no way for mayors to pass the buck. Those kind of policies and things that are not being focused on in the right way at the federal level are impacting people at their kitchen tables, people that have lost their jobs. We've had to hire a bunch of federal employees, and we're grateful for them now working for the city of Baltimore. But we're talking about a long-time life-serving public servants who just had their lives snatched out from under them for no reason. And that's what we're facing here in this country. And we really need Congress and the administration to focus on that health care, focus on making sure that we're doing the basic things that the federal government should be doing for American people, no matter where they are.
Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And Molly, there's been a lot of criticism levied at President Trump from those on the left, but even some Republicans saying, well, he's not focused on affordability. He seems distracted by nonsense. Case in point, literally right now, he has put up multiple posts on Truth Social about how windmills are killing birds, including one that simply just says, eagles going down, with a picture of an eagle apparently felled by a windmill, although it's clearly AI. This is not going to help the thought that the president has got his eye on the ball.
Yeah. And, you know, look, the Journal, which is, as you and I both know, not a liberal paper by any stretch of the imagination, you know, talked about him going back on the tariffs, right? And then they had this pretty incredible reported piece yesterday about his age starting to show. And, you know, then you have him truthing things like about the eagles or the birds and the windmills and not about, say, affordability, which is, especially considering yesterday all of these Obamacare premiums going up and Republicans having sort of signed off on that. They had a chance to extend the tax credits and they chose not to in the House. It just shows a president that is maybe his focus is not where the American people's is.
Yeah, and we should note that Wall Street Journal story, which we talked about a little earlier this morning, includes the concern that he's not sleeping enough. President Trump has responded to that on Truth Social this morning in a post at 7 a.m., coming just 4 hours after he was posting about Iran at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
You can do the math. That doesn't seem to be much sleep. And we're going to have